Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today. Today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto, Chapter 5. Nārada's teachings to Vasudeva. Hare Krishna. So the secret to spiritual perfection is going to be covered today completely. Hare Krishna. Hare Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Anant Kori Vaishnavind ki Jai. Please join us for Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiryet. Shrotam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shama Kirtanaha Hridaya Sasohya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 5, Nārada's teachings to Vasudeva. Shri Rajo Vacha.
Shri Rajo Vacha.
Bhagavantam Harim Prayo.
Bhagavantam Harim Prayo.
Na bhajante Atma Vittamaha.
Na bhajanti Atma Vittama.
Tesham Ashanta Kamanam.
Tesham Ashanta Kamanam.
Kanistha Vijatatmanam.
Kanishta Vijitatmanam.
Please.
Shri Rajo Vacha.
Shri Rajo Vacha.
Bhagavantam Harim Prayo.
Bhagavantam Harim Prayo.
Na bhajanti Atma Vittama.
Na bhajantya Atma Vittamaha.
Tesham Ashanta Kamanam.
Tesham Ashanta Kamanam.
Kanishta Vijitatmanam.
Kanistha Vijatatmanam. Shri Raja Uvacha.
Shri Raja Vacha.
King Nimi inquired,
King Nimi inquired,
Bhagavantam,
Bhagavantam,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Harim,
Harim,
Hari,
Hari,
Prayaha,
Praya,
for the most part,
for the most part,
Na,
Na,
never,
never,
Bhajanti,
Vajanti,
who worship, Atma Vittamaha.
Atma Vittama.
All of you are most perfect
All of you are most perfect
in knowledge of the science of the self.
in knowledge of the science of the self.
Tesham,
Tesham,
of them. Ashanta,
Asham,
unquenched.
unquenched.
Kamanam,
Kamanam,
material desires.
material desires.
Ka,
Ka,
what?
what?
Nishtha,
Nishta,
destination.
destination.
Avijit,
Avijit,
who are not able to control.
who are not able to control.
Atmanam,
Atmanam,
themselves.
themselves.
Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. King Nimi further inquired, My dear Yogendras, all of you are most perfect in knowledge of the science of the self. Therefore, kindly explain to me the destination of those who, for the most part, never worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who are unable to quench their material desires and who are not in control of their own selves. Purport. In the 5th chapter of the 11th canto, Chamas Rishi describes the inauspicious path of those who are unfavorable to the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. And the sage Karabhajan explains the Yuga Dharma Avtaras, the incarnations of the Lord who present the authorized process of religion for each different age. In the previous chapter, it was explained that although the demigods place obstacles in the path of the Lord's devotees, by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, the devotees are able to place their feet on the head of such obstacles and thus pass beyond them to the supreme destination. However, for the non-devotees, there is no such facility. As soon as the conditioned soul becomes indifferent to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, he is immediately attracted by the temporary varieties of matter and becomes a slave of inauspicious desires. Thus the conditioned soul, devoid of devotion for the Lord, completely forgets the transcendental bliss of the spiritual world, which is enjoyed in 5 transcendental rasas. Although the devotees are not overcome by the sense gratification offered by the demigods, the demigods themselves become absorbed in material form, taste and smell. And similarly, those who are non-devotees also become bound by material form, taste and other sense perceptions, such as the sensuous experience of sex life. Thus they remain hovering in a dreamlike state, imagining different types of material sense gratification, and forget their eternal relationship with the personality of Godhead. Videharaj Nimi now inquires from Chamasamuni about the goal attained by such bewildered persons. Hare Krishna. So please join us for the Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we will be covering the secret to spiritual perfection, and it is only a prayer away. So when I was reading this chapter, it reminded me of a very nice story I read as a kid. So there was this very rich man, and he was driving on a highway, and all of a sudden his car breaks down. And it is not the Windows one, just so you know. So he asked his chauffeur, he had a new chauffeur, and the driver didn't know how to fix the car. He only knew how to drive the car. And of course, being rich, this man never thought of learning how to fix the car. So he didn't know much about maintaining the car and so forth. So he was wondering as how to get on with his travel, how to reach his destination, because he was heading for a very important business meeting. So suddenly he sees, a man walking by, and he asks, "Sir, could you help me?" He says, yes, I'm a mechanic. I can help you, definitely. And so he asks the driver to open the bonnet. So the driver opens the bonnet. He, looks at the engine. He asks the driver to, turn the car on and off, make an attempt, and looks at the same time. Suddenly he takes out a hammer, and he bangs the hammer on the engine 3 times. And it starts running. So the rich man is very happy. He's like, "Wow, this is amazing." So he asks, "What should be your labor charge, right? What should I give you for fixing this?" He said, $100. Now the rich man is shocked. Think about 30 years back, that $100 meant a lot. So he said, "But you just, use your hammer to strike it, your mallet actually, it's a rubber hammer, to strike 3 times, and that's $100. He said, "Actually, the hitting is just $1. But where to hit, how to hit, and when to hit, that is $99. So similarly, when we want to know the secret to spiritual perfection, knowing the secret is 99%. But following the secret to be able to do that is that 100th one. So that's 100% is what we want to achieve. And this perfection is only a prayer away. All we need to do is raise our hand and chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So just by singing out these prayers to Radharani, Hara is name of Radharani. And with love, she is called Hare. Just like Sita is called Site, Mother Sita. So with love, it changes a bit, introduces more affection and gratitude, more reflection of the sweetness of our heart in gratitude and humility for the Lordship, for Lord Krishna and Mother Hara, Mother Radha. So we are praying to Mother Radha to engage us in the service, in her service and Lord Krishna's service. So when we want to ask something from our father and we approach to our mother, father may directly say no to us, but he will have very difficult time saying no to Mother Radha, right? So Father Supreme, Father Lord Krishna would easily enable us to get this supreme perfection if we approach to Mother Radharani. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Antar Radha, Andar Krishna, Bahar Radha, right? Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi. He has the golden complexion of Radharani, because when Lord Krishna decides to advent in this age, Kali age, in the form of his own devotee, to experience the ecstatic love that Radharani is experiencing, she knew that when in that mood, she would fall down unconscious and she would get hurt. So remembering that, she said that, my dear Lord, even though you want to appear, let me be your outer covering. So such a compassionate mother she is, such a compassionate consort of Lord Shri Krishna she is, and our mother, right, Radharani, is so affectionately making sure that even Lord does not feel any pain when he is experiencing, the ecstatic love of Godhead. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he opens the door, the treasure door, and freely distributes the love of Godhead through the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So in today's class, let me first cover the blessing, because it's very important to understand the blessing that's coming up from these 4 chapters that we had been studying, chapter 2, 3, 4 and 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto, where Devashi Nārada is narrating the incident he had first heard about King Nimi, when Earth was known as Ajanab at that time. King Nimi was the king of Videha, so he's also referred to as Videhraj. He met the 9 Yogendras, Nav-Yogendras, who were sons of Rishabdev, the Supreme, he's an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these Nav-Yogendras were Paramhamsas. And from these 9 Paramhamsas, King Nimi asks 9 questions. So today we'll be covering the last 2 questions. And before that, let's cover the blessing. So here the blessing is, anyone who meditates on this pious historical narration with fixed attention will purify himself for all contamination in this very life and thus achieve the highest spiritual perfection. So when we hear, then we can meditate, remembering this wonderful narration as how the 9 Yogendras came to Maharaj Nimi when he was performing a fire sacrifice, and how Maharaj Nimi, realizing that these are great associates of Lord Shri Krishna, he worships them, and then he asks them very humbly, in the mood of awe and reverence, please, enlighten me. And he asks 9 questions. So the 8th question he asks is that you, all personalities, are realized personalities, self-realized souls, exalted personalities. And therefore, I'm requesting you to please describe to me the destination of those, so that he's identifying three different aspects. First is those who for the most part of their life do not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, they may worship, but not for the most part. So this is where we are going to hear about people who don't worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for most part, who do not have a strong faith, firm faith. Then, second is, who are unable to quench their material desires. So they have unlimited desires to enjoy in this material world. They want to remove their unhappiness from this material world and have unlimited pleasure in this material world. So that's the second category. And then the third, who are not in control of their own selves, who do not know how to act properly, who are in ignorance, who are completely bewildered. So hearing this, Sri Chamasa, he responds to King Nimi. And his response starts with understanding that this world was initially established by Lord Shri Krishna. So he has established the four social orders and the four spiritual orders. So the four social orders are, he's saying, in the with reference to the universal form of Lord Shri Krishna. So his reference is from universal form of Lord Shri Krishna. That the social orders are, face, which is, Brahmanas are the face of the Supreme Lord. In this particular case of universal form of Lord. The arms, Kshatriyas, the administrators, the warriors, they are the arms of the universal form. And then Vaishyas. So these are the mercantile men who are the thighs of the universal form. And the Shudras who are the feet of the universal form. And he's identifying that these four social orders have been established by Lord Krishna. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagasha. So he's revealing that these four social classes have been established by me, who are based on guna, which is the nature that we acquire, and karma, the activities that we engage in. It has nothing to do with janma. However, there is a glimpse in 7th chapter on janma of transcendentalists, people who are devotees and who have not been able to completely finish their spiritual journey. If they are interrupted at an advanced stage, they born in the family of transcendentalists. If they are interrupted, if their life ends in an earlier stage, without reaching the advanced stage, then they get birth in aristocratic families. Now sometimes people say, wait a minute, this is very interesting. Aristocratic family, if I have to take birth in a rich family, then, I just need to take little devotional engagement in devotional service. I don't have to really advance too much. Well, actually, this chapter discusses, and this question directly addresses what happens to those who don't worship Lord Shri Krishna for the most of their life, and who have unlimited desires for sense gratification, and who cannot control themselves. They do not have any control on their senses, on their mind, on their intelligence, and so they get bewildered. So Sri Chamasa reveals that even though these four social orders, people in these four social orders, including the Brahmanas, if they get bewildered hearing the Vedas, so again, when they read the Vedas and when they become, get the understanding of how to lead pious life, sometimes Vedas bewilder them. Why? Because Vedas, 99% of the Vedas is referring to how to rise to higher planets, how to remove, how to do various penances and sacrifices to remove the sinful reactions you may have performed in the past, how to gain wealth, how to get beautiful husband or a wife, how to, become rich, how to become beautiful. So all these, how to attain various kind of opulences by worshipping various, demigods and so forth, how to become rich by worshipping Goddess Lakshmi. So they get bewildered when they are seeing all this. How to become famous by worshipping Lord Vivaswan, the sun god. So when they hear about all these, how to become materially well established by worshipping Goddess Durga and so forth, when they hear this, they immediately become bewildered and they engage in this various ritualistic ceremonies without understanding the essence behind them, without understanding the spirit behind them. And that causes them to become bewildered. So Sri Chamusa is revealing to Maharaj Nimi. He is revealing that such bewildered souls, they actually in this delusion, right? Because when we are born, we are conditioned. And in conditioned state, we are thinking, I am this body. But the confidential knowledge in Bhagavad Gita reveals that I am not the body, I am the soul. But more confidential than that is that Jivera Sarup Hoya Krishna Nityadas. So the soul's natural propensity, the constitutional position is as an eternal servant. So the nature of the soul is to serve. So it doesn't matter what we do, we'll always be serving. So even when we are boss at work, we are actually serving our associates and our other bosses. If we are at home, then we are serving our family and our relatives and our kutum, the neighborhood and the society, and then we are serving the nation and so forth. So this isms, socialism, patriotism and various kind of isms are also an expansion of our love for ourselves. So we are putting ourselves in the center, being conditioned that I am this body. But being the soul, the serving attitude is there. And the true serving of a soul is Nityadas, Krishnera Nityadas, right? To serve Lord Shri Krishna, to engage in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So that's the true position. Yet being bewildered, we may get distracted by the flowery language of the Vedas. And in that state, we may just be serving the wrong personality. We may be serving Maya. And Maya is like serving, we are putting ourselves in the center, thinking I am in the center, but actually we're putting the senses in the center and seeking sense gratification. So Sri Chamasa says that such a person is constantly burning. Because the senses are burning, they are seeking happiness, right? They are seeking gratification. So that's like a burning fire. And if you pour ghee, which is the various endeavors to acquire different things for sense gratification and seek sense gratification, it's like putting clarified butter in the fire. And when you put clarified butter, the fire rises more. So this is what happens. And the more you put butter, clarified butter, which is ghee, in the fire, the stronger it ablazes and it becomes stronger and stronger. So the simple solution is, if you want to reduce the fire or completely diminish the fire, eliminate the fire altogether, then you basically don't pour any more clarified butter. Rather, you cut off its oxygen supply. And that is very simple. It is simply by raising our hands and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yes, knowing that by chanting the holy name, we can achieve perfection, but by chanting the holy name, we achieve perfection. So that's realizing. So we have to engage in this process. And remembering His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, he had this acronym, push. Pray until something happens. And then we further extend it by saying pull. Pray until love levitates. It levitates us. It raises us to the consciousness of that we are eternal soul. We are the eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna, and we should seek our time, use all our resources in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So we want to dovetail all our activities in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. He is Rishikesha, master of the senses. So when we please Him, all our senses are automatically satisfied. So again, in this way, you can think that your senses are like the lighting lamp, serving and spreading the light of Krishna consciousness and sharing it with others, brightening up the world. So that is what we want to be, not like the senses who are just seeking their own gratification. So this is a process of taking out a thorn with a thorn, right? Our senses are material, and we're using our material senses to get out of this material world, to get out of the clutches of Maya. So in martial arts, there is this art, jiu-jitsu, where you use the force of your opponent against them. So we're using the force of Maya against her only, and that is intelligence. So Sri Chamasa, he continues to elaborate on this, that one who gets bewildered, he becomes very proud, he becomes lusty, and he is greedy, and he is angry, and all this that he is describing is actually, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has already described. In Bhagavad Gita, this nice verse appears, where Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna, Dambho darpo abhimanascha krodha parushyam evacha ajnanam chabhijatasya partha sampadam asurim. Dambho darpo abhimanascha. Dambho. So Dambha, Srila Prabhupada translates this as pride. It also means ego, right? Becoming egoistic. Darpo. Darpo is arrogance, becoming arrogant. So, showing that I am so powerful, I am so important. Pauper is proud of his penny, it is said. So everyone is feeling that they have amazing potencies, amazing qualities, and they are, very qualified, they have received abilities. But when we read Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Parusham Nishu, I am the ability in man. So we have to realize that all our abilities are because of the mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. He has provided us various abilities. And so all these abilities are supposed to be, they're meant to be used in His service. Not just supposed, they're meant to be used in His service. So we should not become arrogant. But if somebody has pride, somebody has arrogance, and abhimanas. So abhimanas is conceit. Abhimana also means, proud. But Srila Prabhupada translates that conceit, trying to cut the corners, using, your own intelligence to cheat others, and in the process get cheated. So that conceit is there. And krodha parushyame vacha. Krodha. So kamesha krodhesha rajoguna samudbhava. Lord Krishna revealed that because of the lusty desires, one becomes angry. When you don't get something, you become angry. And when you get something, then your target moves, right? Just like a mirage in the desert. It just moves, and you want to get more and more till you don't get something, and then you become angry. So in the process, you become angry. That is there. So krodhas. And then parushyam. So parushyam, first I heard, when I read it earlier, I was reading as Parusham. Parusham means, valor of a man. So that is a great quality, but Parusham is a different thing. Parusham is a different quality. It's about harshness. You become harsh, you become hard-hearted, you mistreat even your loved ones. Sometimes it's surprising that people, they are treating strangers with a lot of attention and affection while they're mistreating their own family members. Familiarity breeds contempt, it is said in English. So sometimes we are so familiar with the ones we are living with that we become harsh in our dealings with them. We should not. Rather, we should not deal with them with any harshness or in, hard-heartedness. Rather, we should be more affectionate, that Lord Krishna's mercy is there, that He has provided these other living entities as our family members who are also Vaishnavas. Everyone is devotee of the Lord. Some know it, some don't. That's the difference. Some are in ignorance, some are in passion, while some are in goodness. In the mode of goodness, one becomes pious and has the ability to become a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. But ones who are in passion and ignorance, they are just bewildered by material energy, Maya. She is causing this delusion. And conditioned living entity has 4 defects in this material world. Human is us, so there is a propensity to make mistakes, commit errors, make mistakes. We have, defective senses. So our senses are not perfect, imperfect senses. So we sometimes think of rope to be a snake and we become fearful. Third is propensity to be deluded. Maya is delusion, that which is not. So even though eternal in nature, she is always changing. And then we have propensity to cheat. So we can cheat others, so that is there. And we get cheated in the process as well. So these 4 defects cause us to be deluded, right? One of the defects is to be deluded. So that's what parushya means. And the key cause, the 6th factor is given here, ajnanam chabhijatasya. So when Lord Krishna is telling ajnanam chabhijatasya, he is revealing that it is ignorance, which is also a quality. We are becoming ignorant, and that's what is causing all these defects, defective qualities, bad qualities. He is saying, O Arjun, son of Pritha, know this, that this is the behavior, these are the qualities of a asura, a demon. So these are the qualities of an asura which causes one, even though they may be in this material world, and even if they are performing pious activities, sometimes even bewildered by Vedas, the flowery language of Vedas, then they may just become ritualistic persons, right? They may just be performing rituals, just like King Prachin Bhari. He was performing rituals unless Devashi Nārada, became merciful and approached him and revealed to him. So a very nice story of Puranjana and Puranjani. So through that, Puranjana and Agyat, 2 friends, their story he reveals, and Prachin Bhari understands that the big blunder he was performing, and in the form of various sacrifices. And he was sacrificing so many animals in the process, which is not at all beneficial and is going to lead to hellish condition for him in future life. So he is able to understand. So here, a demonic person becomes proud, becomes arrogant, becomes, he conceitful activities he's engaging in. He becomes angry. He deals with others with harshness, with hard-heartedness, seeking only his interest. And then all this is happening because he is in ignorance. And he is ignorant of the most important factor, the very purpose of this human life. The purpose of human life is to develop, to attain the love of Godhead. And in that process, there are various secondary, effects, which is, so the main purpose is to develop the love of Godhead, which is, to be able to purify our very existence and go back home, back to Godhead. So the going back home to attain liberation is actually a secondary factor. A devotee is never interested in that secondary effect, which automatically comes in, because the moment we are engaged in devotional service, we transcend the 3 modes of material nature. And we can be in a spiritual world while staying in this material world, starting to see everything as Lord Krishna's energy, and seeing how Lord Krishna, through his multifarious energy, is taking care of all this material world, and how various living entities who are engaged in this happiness and distress cycle, which are like sparks in the dark, this happiness and distress is just painful, because they are thinking, being conditioned, that I am this body. So in such state, such people, they are shown to engage in unbeneficial, horrible work that is meant to destroy the world. Right? Scientists, they have philosophers, they have such nice intelligence, but they use this intelligence in creating weapons of destruction. They are engaged in creating weapons of destruction. And Srila Prabhupada wrote extensively that that's not the purpose of intelligence. And believing that to gratify the senses, that is the prime necessity of human society, human race, they are always anxious, they are always disturbed, they are always bewildered. And in the first canto it is revealed, Prayena alpa yusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matyo manda bhagya upradutaha. So the effect of this Kali age has been revealed, where the sages and Naimisharanya is discussing with Sutta Goswami, and this effect of Kali age is being identified. Prayena alpayusha sabhya. So in this Kali age, men are short-lived. Kalavasmin yugejana, and they are quarrelsome. They are just picking up quarrels. So this is the effect of Kali again. Next birth of Duryodhan. And Duryodhan means one who is ready to, start a battle, yuddha, a quarrel, just at a moment he's actually looking. He's a match ready to be ignited. Just looking for little friction so that it can ignite and burn everything in its, vicinity, anything in its vision. So men are quarrelsome. Manda is lazy. People are lazy. Sumanda matyo, and their intelligence is reduced very little. So they are foolish in this material world, most of them, because they're bewildered, misusing their intelligence in building the weapon of destruction. Mandabhagya, and they're unlucky because they do not see the light taking us back to Godhead, taking us in the shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. Rather, they are attracted by the smoke that's been created in the darkness. Mandabhagya, he upraduta, and they are constantly disturbed. So they are always anxious. And so they are absorbed in this state of delusion. They are constantly engaged in lust and anger. So these are the two activities that are, and they use their money, whatever they acquire, all their wealth is used in illegal means for self-gratification. So they are men in this material world who are not taking to the devotion service, to Lord Shri Krishna. They are constantly seeking meat eating. They are constantly gambling with their life, wanting to enjoy the opposite sex. Men want to enjoy women, women want to enjoy men, and they are eating abominable things like meat eating, and they're drinking, alcohol and abominable liquids. Thus they are spending away their time completely deluded, thinking that they are enjoying pleasure. But rather they are becoming more and more unhappy in the process. So the effect is opposite. So just like if you are chasing a mirage in the desert, the mirage keeps moving. So their target is always moving, and they are seeking that next target and next target. And anytime they attain a target, they really don't feel so inspired by those targets. So again, that has been revealed. And the philosophers of this current age, Srila Prabhupada used to, call them Dr. Frog. So he covered this nice story that a frog is living in the well, and he's thinking that this is all the whole world to me. So just like today's philosophers, they are manipulating various material elements, trying to do different kind of things. That's like playthings, and they're spending all their intelligence in the wrong purposes. And sometimes they do use it for the right purposes, but then they don't know the right use of those, but they are providing it. So now here devotees, they are more merciful, because devotees use the inventions from the materialist in Krishna's service, right? So intelligence is supposed to be used in Krishna's service, so devotees, they try to use as much as possible in Krishna's service. But the weapon of destruction cannot be used. So that's an unfortunate state. But we use technology, right? Currently in the virtual world, because of COVID-19 lockdown, there's so many discourses happening on Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, and so forth, and devotees are engaged in hearing these discourses, chanting with more, increased gratitude, with more attentiveness, with humility. So we are engaging, we are constantly improving ourselves, plus sharing this with others, right? Devotee association is very important. So we are continuing to share this. So Dr. Frog in the well never saw ocean. So once another frog came into the well who had come from the ocean side, and Dr. Frog is asking, is this ocean this big? And he is, jumping around the well, and he cannot anticipate the size of the ocean. And the other frog is revealing that no, ocean is unlimited. Now Srila Prabhupada, used this story, and then he said that actually you will never see a frog in the ocean. They will always be in the well or a small pond, They will never be seen near the ocean. So he has never seen the ocean. So that is like the philosopher. They have never seen or even tried to understand the spiritual kingdom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They have seen this material world. They are trying to manipulate this material world, and that's how they are. So there is a very nice story that comes in that I read, and this story is about a stage where man advances so much in science that he is able to challenge God. Like, oh, you can induce life in objects, we can induce life in objects. So let's have a challenge. So yes, there is a challenge between God and man. And this challenge, God and man, they are, together. So man says, okay, let's start. Let's building things and shows. So at that time, God says, wait a minute. Before we start, all the stuff that you're using have been provided by me. You have to get your own things. Don't use my things to build something. And that's where the man is defeated. And that is a truth, right? That's a fact. All we are doing is we are manipulating Lord's material energy, the various elements have been provided to us to show how advanced we are. But we can never produce these material elements on our own. We can only manipulate them. And right then and there we are defeated. So here in this state, Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita reveals, and here Sri Chamasa is further elaborating on that such lusty people who cannot control their senses, then they are in this bewildered state, are thrown into hellish conditions, so they hellish planets, and they suffer eternally till someone is so fortunate that they get to hear the glories of Lord Shri Krishna, and then they take to the devotional service. And we can simply start in this Kali age by raising our hand and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So it's very interesting. It also reminds me of a very nice story where after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, when Vyasadeva he went back, so some of the sages who had been discussing about the different ages, because the next question refers to different ages, right? And if in different ages, how Lord appears with different characteristics. So King Nimi is asking the Navyogendras about this. So here these three sages, they were discussing, was Satyu the best age? Because everyone who was born was actually, Hamsa. So they were already devotees of Lord, they were already austere, they were performing meditation, they were engaging in devotional service. Second one is saying, no, Treta Yuga was better. Because this meditation you have to perform for tens of thousands of years. In Treta Yuga, the lifespan was 10,000 years. So how could you perform meditation in Treta Yuga? Just in 1,000 years or so, you could easily attain perfection by doing fire sacrifices. So that was better. And he is glorifying various aspects of Treta Yuga. And then third sage says, no, actually not even Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga. Dwapar Yuga is where you can go on pilgrimage, right? You can go on visiting holy places, you visit temple, Lord Krishna himself appears, so you serve his lotus feet, and by that process, you can attain perfection. So this is very cumbersome, hundreds of ages, thousands of ages, 10,000s of ages, very cumbersome. Rather, you can spend your life, you only have 1,000 years in Dwapar Yuga, so you cannot follow any of this process. But this process is very nice. So they are having this argument constantly, and they are not able to come to a decision. So they say, let's go to Vyasadeva, Bhadrikasha. So Vyasadeva, he was at that time taking bath when all the three sages appeared. And at that time, they asked this question of Vyasadeva, which yuga is the best yuga? And at that time, Vyasadeva, he jumps out happily from the waters. He comes out on the land in front of the sages. He's bathing, so you can imagine how he might be looking. And he says, Kalera dosha nidhe rajan nasti he ko mahan guna kirtana deva krishna sya mukta sangha param vrajet. And what happens, as soon as he says Kaler, all the sages close their ears. They shut their ears because they don't want to even hear the name of Kali. So he jumps back, and after that they look at each other and say, did you hear, what did he say? They say, no, I did not hear. The moment he said Kale, I closed my ears, the very first word. So they ask him again, please explain. Realizing that they have closed their ears, he again jumps out of the water and says, Kalera dosha nidhe raja nasti he ko mahan guna kirtana deva krishna sya mukta sangha param vrajet. And again the same reaction they had. They immediately, as soon as they heard he's calling out Kali, they closed their ears. And afterwards they looked at each other, did you hear? Nobody had heard. So third time they asked. And the response is, Vyasadeva jumps out of the waters and he says, Kalere dosh nidhe rajan asti he ko mahan guna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. And at that time they realize actually what is he saying? Kalere dosh nidhe rajan. So this Kali age is an ocean of faults. Dosha nidhi. It's an ocean of faults. Rajan is referring to Shukdev Goswami when he was saying this verse to Parikshit Maharaj. Asti he ko mahan gunam. It has one great quality, mahan guna. What is that quality? Kirtana deva Krishna. Just by singing the glories, kirtan of Lord Shri Krishna. So by singing the glories of Lord Shri Krishna, by performing Hari Kirtan, Mukta Sangha, so we can become free from this material world, right? From this material world, we can become free, and Param Vrajat, and we can attain the topmost destination when we attain the love of Godhead. So all we need to do is to attain perfection. Spiritual perfection is raising our hands and call out to the Lordship. It's only a prayer away. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So here, it's been revealed. And devotees are very intelligent in doing this. How they are very intelligent in using Maya against Maya. This is narrated, it reminds me of a very nice story where there was this man, a very old man, and he had a son, but unfortunately his son was in prison. So he is writing to his son that he wants to, dig up the whole potato garden to sow potatoes and so forth, so that way he can have some vegetation and he can, sustain himself. So he says, my dear son, if you were here, you could have, you could dig and you could have prepared, you could have dug up the whole, garden, and would have been so nice. So the son responds back to his father, no, father, don't do that. That's where I have hidden all the guns and the wealth that I looted. So next day what happens is, FBI shows up at this old man's house and they start looking for these guns. They start digging the land, looking for the guns. And after they don't find anything, they are frustrated, but they leave. So now the old man, he was surprised as to what this FBI man and all this, policemen and all, constables, what they did to the garden. They dug up the whole garden and everything. So he writes to his son, my dear son, such as things have happened. The whole garden has been, nicely, they have prepared for this. So now the son responds back, my dear father, this is the best I could do from where I am, right? He's in prison. Yet at the same time, his father needed that service and his service was performed. So devotees are very intelligent. They use the material energy to get out of material energy by taking shelter of Lord Shri Krishna, realizing that Lord Shri Krishna, he is, expanded himself as super soul in our heart, expanded himself in his multifarious potencies, and so we take shelter of Lord Shri Krishna, and so by just watering the root of the plants, the whole plant is nicely nourished. So we take shelter of Lord Shri Krishna, but pleasing Lord Shri Krishna, we please everyone. And we are very affectionate. There is no harshness in the heart of a devotee. Rather, a devotee is always in a humble state, very tolerant, and always sweetly speaking to others, looking for loving exchanges. So that's what a devotee wants. An association of devotee is only to enlighten the other souls. Just like the Navyogendras are enlightening King Nimi, and he is in complete transcendental bliss as he's hearing all these wonderful, responses from the sages, the Paramhamsas. So his ninth question comes. In what color and forms does the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in each of the different ages? So he's talking of the 4 ages. Krita Yuga, Satya Yuga, then Treta Yuga, Dwapa Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Now, sometimes when we list it this way, people get bewildered because in a day of Brahma, only once Lord Krishna appears. And that's when Treta Yuga and Dwapa Yuga, they change their places. In reality, on all other Chaturyugas, it is Satya Yuga, Dwapa Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Kali Yuga. But when Lord Krishna appears, these two change their places. So it becomes Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapa Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So that's given in Puranas. So that has been revealed as well. So here they are asking, and he's asking, and what are their names? And what type of regulative principles in which the Lord is worshipped by the human society? So in human society, how is he worshipped in different ages? So here, Shri Karabhajan, the ninth of the Navyogendras, he responds to this question. And he's saying that in Satyuga, the Lord, he appears, his complexion is white, and he's appearing in his forearm form, and that he has matted locks, and he wears a garment of tree bark, and he carries a black deer skin, a sacred thread, prayer beads, and the rod and water pot of a brahmachari. Now when you hear this, two personalities come to, mind. So he's, meditating as how Lord appears, and is referring to the prominent incarnations of the Lordship. So we also talked about the four limbs of the legs of religion. They are austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. In Satyuga, all four were present. So since austerity was there, people could meditate and attain perfection. So the form of a brahmachari reminds us of Vamandev, yet at the same time also reminds us of Lord Dattatreya. So Lord appeared in whitish form. So both the forms were whitish in complexion, and they were that of a brahmachari or of a sage. Avadhuta is other word. Avadhuta is one who is constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord and appearing carefree. So they are not paying attention to the surroundings as such, because they are in trance. So Prahlad Maharaj, sometimes he would laugh, sometimes he would cry, sometimes he would be lost in meditation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes he would be laughing, sometimes he would be crying, remembering Lord's pastime. He was in trance dance, he was experiencing, the Radharani's emotions. So he was experiencing the exalted emotions of Radharani, and in that mode, he was not himself. So such is the case in Satyuga. And everyone who was born in Satyuga was a Hamsa. And then more exalted than Hamsas are Paramhamsas, just like the Navyogendras. So they were Paramhamsas. And in this case, he's identifying the nature of people, that they were peaceful, right? And the peace formula is given in Bhagavad Gita, where it is revealed, Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surhidam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. So Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna, Bhoktaram yagatapasam. So he is saying that I am the Yagya Purush. So I am the beneficiary of all sacrifices. So as Yagya Purush, when we chant mantras, we end it with Swaha. Swaha is wife of Yagya Purush. Of course, he appears much later, which is Treta Yuga. But again, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all sacrifices are meant. So he's the beneficiary. Sometimes we do various sacrifices to please others or even please demigods. So those sacrifices are indirect worship of Lord Shri Krishna. And he says that is because of, less intelligence. So it is because of the weakness of our heart, we are not being very intelligent, and it is an indirect process, not the direct process. The direct process is to water the roots of the tree, to supply the food to the stomach. That's the direct. Then all of the limbs are nourished of the tree when you supply the water, and all our limbs are nourished when we provide the food through our mouth to the stomach. So here, it's been identified that Bhoktaram Yagatapsam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, that I am the supreme proprietor of all material universes and spiritual universes. All that can be. Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor. And Suruhidam Sarvabhutanam, and I am the best friend, the benefactor, well-wisher of every living entity. Not just mine, not just yours, but every living entity. Not just of humans, not just of Americans, not just of Indians, not just of beasts, not just of aquatics, not just of trees, not just of mountains and hills, every living entity that there is, He is the well-wisher, and He expands as an affectionate Father in the form of Super Soul, Paramatma, and He is in our heart. So yes, I know my business, you know your business, Lord Krishna knows everyone's business. I have my plans, you have your plans. Lord Krishna has His own plan, and His plan will, be the supermost. And if we surrender to His plan, just like Parikshit Maharaj, he surrenders to Lord's plan, agreed that, okay, by providence, by your mercy, I'm going to die in 7 days, so I'm going to fast. So he gave up all his kingdom, he was the emperor of the world, and he decided to fast until death and listen to Shukdev Goswami. And for 7 days, continuously he was listening to Shukdev Goswami. He attains perfection. So that is the purpose. It doesn't matter how long you live, how you lived, how did you, carry out your journey is important. It's not about the date of birth and date of death, how, from source to destination. The journey is important. And that journey, if it's filled with pleasure, then it is amazing. So in Krita Yuga, in Satyu, people were very peaceful. They were non-envious. So they knew that I'm not this body, I'm the spirit soul. Because it's associated with body, when we are conditioned with thinking I'm this body, then we become envious. Envy arises because of I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm an American, I'm an Indian. Envy arises towards others. And they were friendly to every living creature. When Lord is friendly to every living creature, and knowing that every living creature is a brother or sister, then we become friendly to them. We become conscious of our surroundings. And they were steady in all situations. So they were steady. Now, even in that case, even in that stage, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha appeared in Satyuga. So you can imagine that even at that time, people were born with demoniac propensity, and they caused havoc on this world, in this material universe. And again, we understand that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were actually devotees, Jai Vijay, in Vaikuntha, who were cursed by the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Brahma. And that's why they took 3 births. So in Krita Yuga, they appeared as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha was Vijay, Hiranyakashipu was Jai in his previous birth. So here, then Shri Karbhajan is revealing as how Lord was known in his various forms. So Lord is glorified by his various names, like Hamsa. So Hamsa avatar is glorified later on, where Lord Brahma, he is being asked some questions by Chatur Kumaras, and Lord appears as Hamsa avatar, and he is responding to those questions which enlighten the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma. Suparna is another incarnation. Vaikuntha. Kuntha means misery. Vaikuntha is devoid of misery. So we say Vaikuntha, that's the destination. Vaikuntha is the personality. And then Dharma. So Dharma, husband of Murti. So in the early stage, Dharma appeared from the right half chest of Lord Brahma, but he was an incarnation of Lord. Yogeshwara. Lord Krishna is also known as Yogeshwara. He is the master of all yogis, so supreme yogi. King of all yogis is another translation. Amala, Ishvara, Purusha, Avyakta and Paramatma. So these are the various names. He was known in Satyuga. So in Treta Yuga, the Lord appears in red complexion. Shri Karbhajan is revealing Lord's appearance in Treta Yuga in red complexion. He had 4 arms. He had golden hair and wears a triple belt representing the initiation into each of the 3 Vedas, right? Rig, Sam and Yajur Vedas, so all the 3 Vedas. And he is embodying the knowledge of worship by sacrificial performance. So 5 sacrifices were being performed because austerity diminished as Treta Yuga started. So there was no austerity, so people could not be austere, yet they could be clean. And in 5 sacrifices, 6 types of cleanliness, though those aspects are covered. So since they could be clean, they could perform fire sacrifices and attain perfection in Treta Yuga. So he was worshipped by, through fire sacrifices. As per Vedas, so not whimsically, but as prescribed in the Vedas. So when we engage in devotional service, we follow the rules and regulations. We follow the yam and niyam. Yam is prohibitions, things we should not do, and niyam is the regulated activities that we should be doing, regulations we should be following. And at that time, the symbols he carried were ladle, spoon, and other implements of sacrifice. So the various samagris, paraphernalia that's used for fire sacrifices, those were the elements he was carrying. And at that time, the society was still religious. So the society was engaged in religiosity. And they were sincerely looking to achieve the absolute truth. They were sincerely looking to advance in their, spiritual journey. So they were constantly making endeavor in the right direction. And at that time, Lord was known as Vishnu, Yagya, Prishni Garbha, Sarvadeva, Urukrama, Vrashakapi, Jayanta, and Urugaya. So Prishni Garbha is one who's born from the Garbha of Prishni, right? Sutapa and Prishni, they were Prajapatis and they performed great austerities. So as a couple, when they had Lord, so when Lord Krishna was happy with them, he gave them a boon and they asked for Lord to be their sons. They didn't say like Atri and Usuya, they said, we would like to have, sons like you, addressing Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So they got sons who were partial incarnations, right? So Lord Brahma's, his partial incarnation as son of Atri and Anusuya was Soma, the presiding deity of moon. From Vishnu, they got son as Lord Dattatreya, who is also known as Avduta Brahman. His pastime comes here in the 11th canto as well. And then the third son from Lord Shiva was, his partial expansion was Durvasa Muni. Yes, everybody knows that. So these were the three sons. But because Atri and Anusuya, they asked, like your son, so Lord did not incarnate as their son. Rather, a partial expansion was Lord Dattatreya. In the case of Sutapa and Prishni, they requested Lord to be their sons. So Lord was so pleased that he decided to be their sons 3 times when they appeared. So as Sutapa and Prishni, Lord appeared as their son as Prishni Garbha. Later on as Kashyapa and Aditi, when they took birth as Kashyapa and Aditi, then Lord appeared as Vaman Dev. His name was Upendra, the younger brother of Indra, the 12th son of Aditi. That's why he's also referred to as Aditya. Sons of Aditis are called Aditya, sons of Ditis are called Daityas. That's the difference. Father is same, Kashyapa Muni. And when they further appeared as Vasudeva and Devaki, Lord appeared as Lord Vasudeva. So this is in Dwaraka. So we'll be hearing that as well. So in Dwapur Yuga, now the cleanliness, the second leg of religion, was broken again. So in Dwapur Yuga, there was mercy and truthfulness. And since there was mercy and truthfulness, you could go on and serve the lotus feet of Lord. So temple worship and going to pilgrimages, that has been the way to. So it was in Dwapur Yuga that going to pilgrimages, all this Tirth Yatra, that concept started and people took to that. And how do you perform? It is not that you're just going there and bathing in the river and then going and visiting the temples and then paying obeisance to the deities and then heading back. No. The important way, the right way to do pilgrimage is go to the destination, cleanse yourself nicely, take bath, and then have an association with the saintly persons. Just like Akru, when he went on pilgrimage, he met Uddhav near Vrindavan. And Uddhav gave him an insight that he should go to Haridwar, where Maitra Muni is there, and he should take initiation from Maitra Muni. He should surrender. So when he went to Haridwar, he paid obeisances to Maitra Muni, and Maitra Muni, he revealed
Lord's pastimes. So that's in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That pastimes have been discussed, various wonderful pastimes. And Vidur, he was able to become self-realized. So when he returned back to Hastinapur, at that time he met his elder brother Dhritarashtra and revealed to him the importance of human life. So Dhritarashtra, hearing this instruction from his younger brother, he left Yudhishthira Maharaj's palace and he went to the forest with Gandhari and Kunti Devi. And there he attained perfection and then later on he invoked yogic fire and Gandhari ran into that. So again, he went back home, back to Godhead. So sometimes people do ask, did Dhritarashtra go back home, back to Godhead? Yes, he did go back home, back to Godhead. Because he was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the last moment of his life. And he invoked the yogic fire. So in Dwapa Yuga, Lord appears in the dark bluish form like of a rainy cloud. So Lord Balaram appears in a whitish spring cloud, while Lord Krishna appears in dark bluish form. And then Sri Karubhajan is revealing that Lord is known by various names, and he's saying he appears as Lord Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. Now Sankarshan is Lord Balaram's expansion, is whitish in complexion. Yet Pradyumna and Aniruddha, they have bluish complexion just like Lord Shri Krishna. And they appear as son of, Pradyumna is son of Lord Vasudeva, he appearing as, and Aniruddha is appearing as grandson of Lord Vasudeva, son of Pradyumna. So that has been revealed, and that he is recognized by Shivatsa, the curly white hair on his chest, and other distinctive ornaments, and he is appearing with his personal weapons and so forth. And also as Narayan Rishi. Now Narayan Rishi actually appeared in the beginning of the day of Lord Brahma. He continues to live through various ages, that's another thing. So Narayan Rishi, they have been referred, but they did appear in Satyuga, continued through Treta Yuga, Dwapa Yuga, and continued to live through even in Kali Yuga, so Kali age. So they have been living from the early day of Brahma. So many yugas they have already lived through. So also understand that. So he, as Sri Karubhajan is revealing to Maharaj Nimi, he is saying that in Dwapa Yuga, Lord was directly present, so people could worship, go on pilgrimage, and so that is the process. And in Kali Yuga, people worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by various regulations as per the revealed scriptures. So that is important. And now he is revealing those aspects. So we talked about the defects in Kali age, but at the same time we also heard, as Vyasadeva reveals to the three sages, as how Kali age is the topmost of all ages, because we can easily cross over this material ocean just by glorifying Lordship by chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So in this chapter, Sri Karubhajan, he is revealing that Lord appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar. He is revealing, and the verse is Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam Yagya Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Sumedhasaha. Krishna Varnam. So Varnan is like when you describe something, but also calling out, right? Chanting is also Varnam. So Krishna Varnam. So this personality, Lord, is appearing as his own devotees and he is chanting Lord's name. So Lord Krishna is appearing as his own devotees and calling out to himself, showing us by his example how to become a devotee, how to be devoted to Lord Shri Krishna. And he is showing the mood of Radharani, the most exalted. Radharani's name comes from Aradhita, the topmost worshipper of Lord Shri Krishna. So he is showing in the mood of Radharani how to worship Lord Shri Krishna, how to engage in devotional service of Lord Shri Krishna and serve him with that, in that mood of Radharani. And Tusha Krishna. Tusha is, like lightning. So it's like golden, and so he has this golden luster. So Tusha is that luster aspect. And Krishnam, so he's not black, rather he is golden. So we talked about outside, it is the complexion of Radharani. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. So Radharani's complexion is Tapta Kanchan, just a molten gold. That's the complexion. So Lord Krishna is appearing not as dark complexion, but in the golden complexion of Radharani. And Sangha, so he's appearing with all his associates. All his associates, and when he appears, Lord appears in this material world, he also has all his incarnations in him. And Upanga, so all his servitors, like, Nanda, Upnanda, and so many of his servants, they are appearing with him as well. Goddess of Fortune is constantly serving, she attains perfection, but serving the lotus feet of Lordship. So she also appears as his consorts. And Astra, so even his weapons, they are appearing in this Kali age. And confidential companions, so he's appearing with many of his Vrindavan associates, the cowherd boys, and Radharani's associates, her friends, they are there. Lalita, Vishaka, and so many, they are also appearing when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, but they are all in this hidden form. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in his hidden form. So they are all appearing, and they are, he's spreading Krishna consciousness by congregational chanting. And who are his associates who are able to take to congregational chanting? The ones who are intelligent. Su Medasa. Medasa is one who is intelligent. Su Medasa is one who is very intelligent, who has very sharp intelligence. So people who have very sharp intelligence, they take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we should take to the chanting and be very intelligent, because it's important to be very clever. Reminds me of a story. Once there was this old lion, he was in the cave. He was so old that he just could not go out to hunt any animal. He could not chase anyone. So in that state, what happened was, he decided a trick, that I'll just stay inside the cave and I will invite other nearby any animal that is crossing, and they would come. I'm the king of the jungle, so they would be afraid, and they would pay me visits, and I'll pounce on them and kill them. So one day, as he's sees a deer crossing, he says, why don't you come in? Pay homage to me. So why don't you come in and visit me? And then you can go on your journey. So the deer thought, okay, this is the lion, so let me just see, he's not doing well, so I can just, visit him and then be on my journey. So he gets in, the lion pounces on him, eats him up. Then there was a wolf crossing, and the lion says, I'm the king of the jungle, why don't you come and visit me? And I'll give you some reward. And the wolf, being lusty, desiring to gain some reward, he enters the cave. The lion pounces on him and eats him up as well. Now a fox was crossing, and suddenly the lion says, hey dear fox, you should come in. The fox says, actually I don't want to come in. He says, no, I will give you a nice reward. No, I don't want to come in. He says, don't you know I'm the king of the jungle? You should better come in, otherwise, it will not be good for you. He says, actually, the reason I don't want to come in is, I can see the footsteps leading into the cave, but I don't see any footsteps coming out of the cave. So this is how devotees, people who have intelligence in this Kali age, even people who are innocent, yet they are intelligent, they are using this intelligence, they are following the scriptures, and they are understanding that in this Kali age, this old lion is the state of Maya. And we don't want to walk into this cave of Maya, to land into her mouth, not because we are fearful, not because we are lusty, but because we want to get out of this material world. So we want to be very much under the radar, right? Not become so visible, but we stay under the radar to get out of this material energy. So we use devotees who are sumedhasa, engage in congregational chanting. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Nam eva kevalam, kala nashte avanaste gatiranyatha. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu propagated congregation chanting, and he also reminded everyone that in Brihad Naradiya Purana it is said, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam eva kevalam. So 3 times Hare Nam is being said, chanting of the holy name for stress, and that is the only process. And that can remove the faults of this Kali age. Right? So again, that has also been stressed 3 times. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau, Nashteva, 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 Gatiranyatha, there is no other way. So we should all take to the chanting of the holy name with devotion. We should be chanting with attention. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, he covers in his lecture, he covered this very nice example, that our mind is like a child. So as a child, our mind engages in all kind of naughty activities, right? Always distracted. And he was giving this example that in America, one of his friends, when they had a baby son, so when they had a son, just a toddler, he would get into all kind of troubles. And children have this attitude to get into all kind of troubles. So they got him a lot of fluffy plush toys, nice plush, beds and all the things very nicely arranged. Yet one day, safe things, right? They are child-safe things. And they made sure that all the plug points, the electrical points, they have been covered nicely and so forth. It's a really child-safe house. But one day they saw, when they visited the son, that what is he doing? He was playing with a blade. They were surprised. How did he come in contact of a razor? Where did he find a razor? Razor is such a dangerous thing to hold, and in the hand of a child, it's like very dangerous. And they were surprised. So such is the state of a kid, a small child. So mind is just like a child. And the car manufacturers, they make sure that the rear windows, they only put them halfway down. They don't put them all the way down. The reason is because children in the back seat, sometimes they get so attracted, even though they have toys inside the car, they get attracted by outside and they would jump out of the vehicle, moving vehicle, and they would have accidents, sometimes die as well. So car manufacturers, they realize that this is not good. So they don't, let the windows open fully. They leave it half open only, so that parents have an opportunity to avoid such circumstances. So our mind is like a child, and it's always flickering. So when we are chanting, even if it's flickering, we should bring it back. So intelligence is like mother, very affectionate, and intelligence in the mode of passion. But if this passion is towards devotional service and taking care of mind, to bring back mind, so we should use our intelligence when we are chanting the holy name, or when we are listening to discourses, we are listening to Harikatha. At the time we should, use our intelligence, which is like mother, to bring back the child, the mind, back to attentively listen and engage in a safe environment of devotional service, and not be in a razor-filled environment of this material energy, material world. Dangerous environment it is. Thank you. So that is the message. And today we heard how we can attain the secret. So we covered the secret of spiritual perfection, and the secret is only a prayer away. So when Devashi Nārada, he is telling this story, when the 9th question has been answered, that in Kali age, Lord appears as Kalki as well. So Kalki incarnation has been revealed. And he annihilates all these administrators who are actually appearing as Shudras and even fallen Shudras. So they are like Chandals and Malichas. They are appearing in this form. And as Kalki avatar, Lord appears and he kills all these administrators at the end of Kali age. Again, 427,000 years to go. We keep hearing about these Kalki avatars who have already taken birth, but they are aging and becoming old. So of course, these are people who are, thinking, bewildered by the material energy, thinking that they are God. And they are bewildering other living entities as well. So we should be very cautious about such, false propaganda out there, and rather take to devotional service, which is so easy. And then Devashi Nārada, after revealing, he's giving an ultimate instruction to Vasudeva. He says that after this, King Nimi and all the Brahmanas and the sages at the sacrificial arena, they worshipped the 9 Yogendras. And after the worship was performed, 9 Yogendras, they disappeared from the vision. So it was not that dream was seen, this was in reality happening. So this was being narrated. And then Devashi Nārada wants to come to the important point, because Vasudeva had asked that I was deluded by Lord's energy, and he was referring to illusory energy Maya, that when I perform all these austerities, when he was Sutapa and his wife Devaki was Prishni, then they perform austerity and asked Lord to be their son. Rather, he should have asked for liberation. And now Devashi Nārada is revealing to him, actually, to attain liberation, the first is you get to engage. After you perform devotional service and develop the love of Godhead, then you are engaged in Lord's pastime. So, and then after that pastime is over, you go back home, back to Godhead. So he's revealing that you actually have Lord Krishna as your son, but you should not think of him as your son. You should think that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should recognize that. Yet at the same time, Lord doesn't want that. So he uses Yog Maya, his internal potency, to cover the remembrance, to cover his devotees, so that he can have that loving exchange. Otherwise, it will be Vaikuntha stage, where Lord Vishnu is there and all the devotees are worshipping him in awe and reverence. And even the demons who are killed by Lord Shri Krishna, they attain such Vaikunthas. And Dwarka is much above Vaikuntha. Above Vaikuntha planets is Mathura, and above Mathura is Dwarka, and above Dwarka is Vrindavan, and the very core, the world of Vrindavan is Goloka. So Goloka Vrindavan is the topmost. So here he is saying that Lord appeared as your son. So you are already perfect. And hearing this, Vasudeva and Devaki, they are very pleased at their heart, and they are meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead with love and devotion, with gratitude. So this is where the pastime ends, and the cover picture of this book is about this pastime. Devashi Nārada being worshipped by Vasudeva, and how Vasudeva is, feeling ecstatic, ecstasy. Basically, he is feeling transcendental ecstasy, hearing this wonderful pastimes where King Nemi meets the 9 Yogendras and he asks those 9 questions. So this is where the class ends today, and we should understand that the secret to spiritual perfection is to attentively hear and meditate on this pastime. The 9 questions that were being asked, and how one can take to devotional service, because the perfection, the secret of spiritual perfection is only a prayer away. It's just a prayer away. And that prayer is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Please join us for another prayers.
Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.